Well, good day and welcome to you. It is July the 25th, and I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you happen to be. My name is Gary Willing. I want to welcome you to Search for Signs and just point out, if you want to know more about this information, perhaps you want to see if there's anything to this for yourself or not, I have provided links to websites that have wonderful background information in the description portion of these videos, so hopefully you'll look into it. Now, I also would like to thank Niraj Singh, John Mason, Joel Zalazar, and Harry Nana for joining the discussion and posting comments since the last video. In the case of John Mason, actually asking a question. And also just encourage, if you have a question you'd like to ask, post your question in the comment section or post your comment if that's the case. So join the discussion. Don't just sit on the sidelines, if you know what I mean. Now, John Mason asked me this question: do you believe this search for signs? And come to think about it, nobody's really asked me this question before. I have had people over the years claim to think that they know what I believe, have no problem telling me what they think that I believe, and yet they're accusing me of saying something totally different to deceive people, which I find quite offensive because these people don't know me, they've never met me in my life, but yet are totally convinced that I believe something different than what I'm saying. So I find this question actually refreshing. So to answer this question, yes, I believe this wholeheartedly. Now, to me, there's more to this than just belief, But the other question would be, why would anybody put videos like this up if they didn't believe it at all, right? Because that would just be nuts. I don't understand why people lie to make money. That's never been a motivation of mine, but I could kind of half-heartedly understand somebody putting up videos like this if they were making thousands or millions of dollars. But I have no donation button. I have no join, and pay a monthly fee to get bonus episodes. I don't pay you for the links that I provided. They're all free. Every part of this information is free to you, the listener. So it really financially, it doesn't matter to me whether I have one person watch a video or 1 million. It doesn't matter to me, financially, So what would be the reason for me to do it, other than just because I'm totally crazy? But maybe I am. But I am crazy, like our prices are so low you think we're crazy, kind of crazy. No, I believe this. I think there's something to this. And the reason why I think there's something to this is because of two reasons. One, my own personal experiences with Maitreya, but more importantly, studying the teachings of Maitreya, some of the teachings that he gave to me personally and applying them to my life and seeing that they work. Those are the two big reasons why. If I truly just believed this and didn't have any personal experiences with Maitreya, or just believe this and more importantly didn't apply it to my life, I would have given up a long time ago. In fact, knowing me, I would have given up when the first person in my life said I was crazy for thinking this. I would have been like, yeah, you're probably right. And you would have never heard from me again. But the only reason why I do this in the way that I do it is because I think there's something to this, really, to be honest with you. So I guess a better way of answering the question is, I think there's something to this. Now, I don't expect you to believe me, but I'm hoping that at least at a minimum, you can investigate this for yourself and then you can decide for yourself. But, if you look at belief, right, versus truth, we all believe in what we believe, in whatever it is, right? Those people who tend to believe like us, we trust more, of course. Perhaps we're friendlier with. We think they're realer people than those other people that don't believe what we believe and that kind of stuff. And we have a tendency to think and believe that if the more people agree with our belief, then we're more right than those who don't. So if one person was standing out there claiming something that was true and the rest of the world didn't believe it, it doesn't mean that the rest of the world is right and that person's wrong. It just means that the rest of the world is believing something that's not true. Now, I say all that to say, like, for instance, like looking at truth and belief, right? Another example would be, you got the Bible, right? A fundamentalist evangelical Christian would tell you they believe 100% in the Bible. It's the Word of God. They don't question it. They don't even look to see if there's any kind of discrepancies in the Bible. It's whatever's written in there is the truth. That should be followed to the letter, right? Whether they follow it to the letter or not is a whole other thing, but that's what they would tell you they believe. If you asked a fundamentalist atheist the same question, they would say the exact opposite. They believe it's 100% inaccurate or garbage, and they don't read it, don't see if there's any truth to it for themselves or not. There's no use for them or not. It's for the ignorant to believe. They believe something different, right? Now, is there truths in the Bible? I think there are. I do think you have to look at it in a certain light. You can't just take everything at face value as true. But if you look at those two opposites, right, the evangelical Christian and the fundamentalist atheist, and asked him this question, which is a truth that Jesus was speaking of in the Bible. What you sow, so shall you reap, or a tree is known by its fruit. That truth. I believe he was speaking about the law of cause and effect, which is a greater truth than just planting a seed in the ground, right? But it was a teaching about the fundamental truth that the law of cause and effect affects each and every one of us, without exception. Now, just looking at what he said, now, if you plant an apple seed in the ground, what kind of tree are you going to get? Are you going to get an apple tree, or are you going to get an avocado or a banana tree or an orange tree? You're going to get an apple tree, right? So if you ask that fundamentalist Christian that believes 100% in the Bible, if you plant an apple, what you sow shall you reap. If you plant an apple seed, are you going to get wheat? They're going to say you're going to get an apple tree. You're not going to get wheat. They might believe everything else in the Bible is true, but they would say that that's true, right? Now, if you ask the fundamentalist atheist the same question, they would give you the same answer. Yes, when you plant an apple seed in the ground, you're going to get an apple tree, not an orange tree. But yet, they originally told you there was no truth to the Bible, right? But yet that's something that's written in the Bible. See, to me, it's about the application of the teaching of the Bible, not just simply believing in it. That's the distinction I think that people are missing. And every teacher that you ever have in your life should be critiqued and judged by their teaching to see if it works, not by who and what they are as a person. Because there are some teachers that I've had in my life. Benjamin Creme's one of them. I didn't particularly like him that much in terms of just like him. I respected him for sure. But he infuriated me a lot of the times by what he said about me and about things and so forth. But when I looked at it and I applied it, I saw that what he was saying was true. But I've had other teachers that had a much softer presence to them than Benjamin Creme did that didn't have the same impact on my life that Benjamin Creme had. So who's a better teacher for me, right? So if you look at Maitreya, right, central to his teachings, without sharing there could be no justice, without justice there could be no peace, and without peace there could be no future. Let's take a look at that, okay? In reference to, is it true or not? Irregardless of what you believe Maitreya to be or not, is that true? Now, I would say, since we haven't been sharing, are we living in a peaceful world? Do nations trust one another? Do every nation trust one another? Well, of course, the answer is no, right? There's wars all over the place. There's instability. There's massive poverty. There's starvation. There's pollution that's ravaging the earth and killing people off. Are we living in a peaceful, stable world? Well, no, we're not. But yet, political leaders like George W. Bush have told us back in 2001, right after 9/11, all we need to do is attack Iraq and Afghanistan, and that will end terrorism. Did it? Of course it didn't. Are we living in a more peaceful, stable world now that they've done that? Of course not. And if you're living in the United States, do you feel like your life is safer now that we've attacked Iraq and Afghanistan and gone into those nations? Do you feel that your life is safer now because of that? That's what they promised. That's what they were telling us would happen, right? A tree is known by its fruit. It's very simple. So if you don't know who's telling you the truth, just look at what they're saying. Is it make sense? Is it working or not? You don't have to believe it or not. You just have to look at it. A tree is known by its fruit. But if you look at what Maitreya says. Without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. Without peace, there could be no future. Let's take a look at that. I always offer this up as evidence. Okay, so to what he's saying is true, is the Marshall Plan. Right after World War II, the United States gave excesses of what they had to Western Europe to rebuild Western Europe. Did it do that? Yes. Did those nations that participated in the Marshall Plan give back some excesses of what they had now that they were rebuilt? Yes. Did it help the United States out? Yes. It was an economic boom right after that in the 50s. The other thing that you will not get in any history books right now, but eventually they'll talk about it, is because the master said that that was the only time that humanity tried the principle of sharing. Did it create trust amongst those nations is the other question, which is peace, in essence. It's a low level of peace, but it is peace. There were other nations that participated in it. None of those nations have attacked one another since, but if you look at the key players, United States, England, France, and Germany, if you know enough about world history, you would know that every one of those nations were at war or at conflict or didn't trust one another at some point. But since then, has any of those nations attacked one another? Even during World War II, Russia was an ally of the United States and Britain. And yet we don't trust them as much as we trust Germany, who was our mortal enemy during World War II. The people of those countries can immigrate to those other countries easier. The people of those countries can even travel easier on a daily basis than they can to any other nations on the planet. So if you have a passport and you have money, you can get a ticket, you can fly from Atlanta right to Heathrow International in London in a matter of hours. It doesn't take you much effort to get there. Just a little bit of money, an Uber ride to the airport, and a passport, and you're there. Boom. Now, how many flights fly from Heathrow to Atlanta and vice versa every day? A lot. How many flights fly from Atlanta to Tehran, or Atlanta to Baghdad, or Atlanta to Pyongyang, North Korea? How many are doing that? None, right? Can you just up and fly there direct, even? No. Do you need a visa to go there? Yes. Is there a possibility that they won't even approve the visa to get somebody to go there? Yes. Do they trust those? Do the people in the United States trust the people in Iran or Iraq or North Korea as much as they trust the people in France, Germany, and England? Well, the answer, of course, is no, they don't trust them as much. But if we tried the principle of sharing, maybe, we don't know yet because it hasn't happened, would it bring about the same amount of trust amongst those nations as it did right after World War II? Well, we won't know until we try, but what's the harm in trying? Really, what is the harm in trying the principle of sharing? Was that really going to do anything bad to anybody? By giving a little excesses that you're hoarding that's just going to bad anyway and just giving it to somebody else to use to maybe help feed them a little bit? Is that going to harm them in any way? Of course not. And I guess that would be the other thing to look at in terms of the teachings of Maitreya. Is anything that he's saying going to harm anybody? Is anything that he's saying divisive? No. But yet, our so-called religious leaders, our so-called spiritual leaders, our so-called political leaders, economic leaders, corporate leaders, and so forth, a lot of times what they're saying is divisive, and it's bringing about division, of course, because what you sow shall you reap, but yet sharing is not divisive. Sharing is inclusive. So something to think about. But anyway, I present all that for you to look at, for you to think about. You decide if it's true for yourself or not. But anyway, I thank everybody for listening, at least to this point. And if you have any comments or questions in the future, don't be afraid to post them or ask them. You take care. Have a great day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.